Hello, a couple of movies I've watched here lately. This is Fire and Ice. This is a collaboration between Ralph Bakshi and Frank Frazetta. And I've had this is VHS, I've had it for a while, but was sort of interesting in watching it again due to the Frank Frazetta artwork in it. It's a fantasy. And when I first saw it a long time ago, I wasn't that impressed with it, but I like it a lot upon watching it again the second time. It actually has really nice artwork in it. And you can find this on YouTube if you do a search. And if you think you may like that type fantasy, give it a watch. I thought it was pretty good. This is H.G. Wells' Time Machine and was the original. I think it came out in the 50s. And was directed by George Powell, which did a lot of the movies back in the day. Of course, it's by H.G. Wells. And yeah, stars Rod Taylor is the main creator of the Time Machine. And of course, it's about the Morlocks and all that. But yeah, good movie. I hadn't seen this one in a while, and it's not the best science fiction movie I've ever seen, but it's worth watching and worth owning if you run across a cheap copy of it. Stars Sean Connery as a marshal on a Io, I believe that's a moon of Jupiter, and they are mining Jupiter for certain minerals and stuff like that. And there are some miners that have mysteriously died, and he plays a marshal that is trying to solve that mystery. So yeah, pretty interesting old school natural effects, and pretty interesting if you've not seen it. Altered States by let's see who does this. It's got William Hurt in it, which was the draw for me. And I'm forgetting the guy that directed it, but it's about this guy here that is doing research on hallucinogenic drugs and also these tanks that he gets in. And yeah, it's kind of a science fiction film. Real interesting if you haven't seen it. Like I said, it's sort of edgy, but yeah, I'm forgetting who the director is on this, but yeah, Altered States. The Devil and Daniel Johnston is a documentary on Daniel Johnston, who was a musician there in Austin. Small independent musician who had mental issues, and but yeah, became really famous. Wrote a lot of songs, although you know, he still had to deal with his mental problems. But he died, I don't know, a couple of years ago. But yeah, real interesting documentary on him. If you can find a copy to watch. Here's a couple of books. This is a big mammoth book here on art. It's called The Museum of Modern Art in New York. And that's Matisse on the cover there. Big, thick book. I found a copy at Half Price Books while I was there in McKinney, Texas, which is up above Dallas. But if you're into contemporary art, this is a really great book to get. Real nice cover photos and black and white as well. But, you know, it has write-ups about the authors or the artist and so forth. And this book also came out in a smaller version, which is a lot more affordable. But, like I said, I found this at Half Price Books and was real happy to find it. But it came out, I think, in a paperback edition, as well as a smaller hardback edition, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, really good book on modern art if you can find a copy, and if that's, where your interests lie. Robert Motherwell over here, and I think that's Philip Guston right there. Yeah, Philip Guston, The Clock. Real abstract picture. So, yeah, goes through all sorts of artists. This is Helen Frankenthaler right there. All sorts of artists. This is called The Illustrated Encyclopedia of Science Fiction by John Clute. If you're into science fiction, this is a really neat one to get. It covers the early days of science fiction, and it also covers authors of science fiction and all sorts of things. It's got nice articles and pictures. It also covers movies and various subjects back in the day. This one's talking about gender roles. So you can see how they changed. There's a picture of Ripley in Aliens, and you got Supergirl right there, and you got Uhura, who played on Star Trek. Here's something talking about the early pulp magazines. It had a lot of the science fiction stories in them, like Astounding and other things like that. You have a section on authors of science fiction, going back from the, they do this by dates, going back to the 1800s to the, the present day, the contemporary era. There's Isaac Asimov right there. And then, of course, it has the book covers, which is always a draw. And then also it has movies and stuff. Let's see if I can see some movies. Well, there's also comics, graphic works. And yeah, movies too, going back to the 40s. Little overlap with horror there, but they say Frankenstein was his first science fiction story. And goes through the decades. Here's one on the 60s. It goes through the 50s and 60s. So, yeah. And this is another one that's similar to that one, but a little bit different. It's called The Ultimate Encyclopedia of Science Fiction, the Definitive Illustrated Guide. This is by David Pringle. And it's along the same lines too. I think this one was British. Where that one there is American, although I think John Clute, who wrote that other one, is a British author, if I'm not mistaken. But same thing applies. Although there's a lot of differences in both of these. This one also has TV shows. Here's a copy of Red Dwarf right here. And then you have authors. This is Ian M. Banks. You know, and there's things about, like the other one, graphic novels and what have you. But yeah, real interesting book if you're into science fiction. And awful here have heard the term or like the phrase, have any books ever changed your life? And for me, not really. If you were to exclude, say, religious text or something like that, philosophical text, which I'm sure changed a lot of people's lives, this one kind of did for me in a lot of ways as far as trying to save money. This is You Have More Than You Think by Tom and David Gardner, who have a financial site at fool.com. I found this in a garage sale a long time ago before I moved from West Texas, and just was looking at the blurbs on this, and it said a national bestseller. And, you know, while I was at the garage sale, I kind of just, it says humorous and savvy. I just kind of looked through it and kind of spot read little bits and pieces of it, you know. And the first part of the book, it's just about, you know, how do you go about saving money, you know, and even if you have a lot of bills, you know, you may can only save $25 a month, but that's, you know, more than what you were saving previously. So, and then it goes further into how to save money, you know, after you get your bills paid off. That's the first thing, but after you get your bills paid off, maybe put some money in, say, a CD or something like that. But they also talk about how to save money through stocks and exchange funds like Vanguard, and so on and so forth. And all of it is pretty easily readable. So, you know, it's too bad that schools don't offer an elective in personal finance, because I really think that that would be beneficial. But anyway, yeah, this book here by the Motley Fools are David and Tom Gardner. You Have More Than You Think. And it's a real interesting book if something like that interests you. So that's it.